Rob Lucci has created a war, and is it legitimate? Is it justified? I don't know yet, but there is a war brewing, and we got to talk about it. Now, there will be a comprehensive breakdown of Rob Lucci versus Luffy and what I think is going to happen incoming, but now we have to talk about exactly what the problem is and where the dissension lies, because there's a lot of people who think that Rob Lucci should not stand a chance against Luffy, meaning getting clobbered and demolished immediately, while there are others who think, well, hold on a second, let's give him a chance. I'm on the side of, hey, hold on a second, let's give him a chance, but we gotta be real with ourselves. Rob Lucci, based on how strong Luffy has grown, should not stand a chance, which I don't think he does, but we can't write him off that quickly. Now, for me, I didn't realize the dissension or just how people were disagreeing on this topic until after I made my review video yesterday on chapter 1068, and then I realized that people really are mad if you try to compare Rob Lucci and Luffy in any way. And for Luffy fans, I could understand why. Because since Rob Lucci, Luffy has overcome the most extraneous circumstances and gone through transformations that we didn't even fathom, and he even got a new devil fruit type. Yes, all that has happened since fighting Rob Lucci. And what has Rob Lucci done? Huh? A promotion? You think just getting a promotion is just gonna automatically make you stronger, Rob? Well, some people may not have read Rob Lucci's cover story and what happened after Enies Lobby. I'm here to talk about some of that. I'm here to dispel some of the notions, go through some of the comments, but for the most part, just to let you guys know, it's okay to have a difference of opinion. We all agree Luffy is on the Yonko caliber at this point. He was able to defeat Kaido. Regardless of how it went down, he came out on top. So even Rob Lucci, a mere CP0 agent, to think he stands a chance against a Yonko like Luffy is absurd. Hold on a second. There are a few things to address. The first thing is the subscribe button, okay? You may have watched a few videos, didn't realize you're not subscribed. Just look down, hit that sub button. It greatly helps me out. And so let's move along with the thing. Main thing, Luffy versus Rob Lucci. Again, this is not specifically about how strong Rob Lucci is. It's about what's most likely to happen. I think in One Piece we get caught up sometimes with this character's here, this character's here. There's no way this character stands a chance. But there have been several times in the story, especially involving Luffy, in which certain circumstances can be overcome by, well, certain circumstances. There have been multiple times, multiple instances in the story where Luffy is severely much more powerful than an opponent, but the opponent is able to accomplish their goal, even in the midst of Luffy being there. Or even if it's straight up combat, they are able to overcome Luffy because of certain circumstances. Pre-time skip is pre-time skip. And we know the limitations that Luffy had back then, mainly Haki, but circumstantially with Smoker. He was stronger than Smoker, but he wasn't able to overcome him because simply Smoker was a Logia. Or we can go backwards or into the future with one of Luffy's nemesis in Crocodile. Back then, I think wholeheartedly, Crocodile was stronger than Luffy, okay, 100%. But Crocodile was coming off of a situation in which I think he lost his ambition. He was sent from the New World, and of course he was going towards different things, had new dreams, new aspirations, but his dreams were essentially shattered by Whitebeard, and he was coming back to Alabasta, and for the most part, Luffy caught him in a specific situation in which, hey, Crocodile was not prepared for someone with the tenacity of Luffy. Granted, Luffy lost probably, what, two or three times to Crocodile? Luffy was saved by an absolute stranger, by the way, Nico Robin, the first time when he should have died. And yes, he was able to figure out Crocodile's weakness in water, but Crocodile's true strength was shown in Marineford, in which he was matching up against the likes of Mihawk, Akainu. I want to say Whitebeard, but he really didn't have a chance against Whitebeard, but he was shown to be on the level, or at least can contend with these guys. Just because you're on a different level doesn't mean you can't be got. For instance, Kaido eventually overwhelmed them, but all the Scabbers were able to stab Kaido and get multiple hits in on Kaido because they were fighting together. Next, Mihawk versus Vista. Vista is an admirable swordsman. He is one of the strongest swordsmen in the verse that we know of, I guess. Vista was able to hold off Mihawk for a decent amount of time where Mihawk called it off, saying, this is not the appropriate situation for us to fight. Let's fight at another time. Mihawk, I think, is Yonko caliber, on the likes of Shanks, Luffy, Big Mom, Kaido, even Akainu, and he's up there. And Vista, who is a commander of the Whitebeard Pirates, not first, second, or third, by the way, he was able to hold off Mihawk, where Mihawk talked him off the ledge. Granted, I think Mihawk, if he tried a bit more, could have overwhelmed Vista. But either way, he was able to do something for a while. And so, with Rob Lucci, there's no way in hell he can beat Luffy. But him getting completely overwhelmed here, I think there are a few issues with that. And here are some of the issues. One, if Luffy completely demolishes Rob Lucci here, why did you bring him back? You guys may disagree or agree with this statement, but Rob Lucci is Luffy's most iconic matchup. Regardless of how you feel, Doflamingo is the most iconic antagonist in One Piece, probably, in regards to the One Piece fandom at least. I think when we go beyond that, people may look at One Piece and look at different antagonists in different lights, but Doflamingo is the standard. Rob Lucci in regards to Luffy, and when we think of Luffy's toughest matchups, most memorable matchups, Rob Lucci is it. And I think Oda and the Japanese fans everywhere, they're aware of that. And so for Oda to bring Rob Lucci back into the story, back into the fold, the first time Luffy has really completely overwhelmed an opponent, and for them to come back as really an antagonist, I guess save Bellamy, this is groundbreaking. You guys may feel differently, but if Luffy completely annihilates Rob Lucci and then he's knocked out for the rest of the arc, doesn't that just shit on what happened prior? Is Oda trying to show that Luffy has grown and that people like Rob Lucci can't compete anymore? We already know that. That's not interesting at all. And one thing I have perceived from the Egghead arc so far is that Oda is dropping a lot of very interesting things, a lot of interesting beats as opposed to what we expected. Even the existence of the Seraphim screams interesting. Luffy completely clobbering and annihilating Rob Lucci here does not scream interesting. And again, that's not the point because we're talking about how strong they are, but sometimes in One Piece, how strong you are does not really matter. Circumstantially, what matters? What is beneficial for the story at this point? I went back and I reread Rob Lucci's iconic moment where we found out somewhat his ideal or his view of justice. Let's revisit it really quickly. Spandam was celebrating after capturing Nico Robin and, coincidentally, I guess, Cuddy Flam. And he's trying to propose a toast because CP9's status will raise because of capturing the demon child. Rob Lucci says, I don't feel like a toast because I'm not interested in status or power. The world government decides justice for us. As long as the government recognizes you as the leader of CP9, we will carry out our orders to the letter. But we don't have to agree with your ideals. Then he asks, you're right, but what is it that you want then? Blood. When we're here, murder is justified. And just one of the most amazing panels because Rob Lucci transforms just to show how menacing he is as a character. And again, this is one of the reasons why he's one of the most iconic One Piece antagonists, because he is just, for all intents and purposes, evil. There's no real justification. He uses the world government and justice to accomplish his thirst for blood. That's it. But there has shown some signs of development or spots of development based on the Rob Lucci we knew back then as opposed to now, where even a statement to Spandam saying, as long as they recognize you as the leader, we will carry out our orders to the letter. Meaning, if I was the leader, would we veer off a bit? Would we carry out orders to the letter? Something interesting, but I don't know if I would like it, is if Rob Lucci's starting to question things a bit, but we saw a hint when he was questioning what happened to Lelouch, why they were trying to get rid of Vegapunk. However, in the midst of this, Rob Lucci is showing absolutely no mercy by how he demolished Atlas. But what if Rob Lucci had some development? Where he's starting to recognize what's going on in the world and he had somewhat of a change of heart? Would that be interesting? Hell yeah. Conversation for another day. But for Rob Lucci right now as he stands, he will not get demolished. He cannot get demolished, considering what he represents. We also have the Who's Who standpoint, where Rob Lucci was in some way compared to Who's Who, and they were somewhat on a similar level back then. All I'm gonna say is Moria was compared to Kaido back then, but I will concede that Who's Who is the apt comparison right now based on what we know. Who do we have here? We have Jinbei. Luffy goes on, and I don't want to say it's a theme, but it's a known thing in One Piece that typically, if you're not strong enough, you're not even seeing the captain. You're not meeting or engaging with the captain. Not saying Green Bull wasn't strong enough, but Green Bull was more representative of what was to happen. That's why Shanks mentioned the saplings, etc. Jinbei could stalemate Rob Lucci, and they may have a conversation again where Who's Who is mentioned, because remember the last time Rob Lucci said, hey, I'm gonna tell somebody about you, and a lot of people feel like he was talking about Who's Who when he mentioned he's gonna tell a colleague about Luffy, because the connection with Who's Who and Shanks taking the Gumu Gumu no Mi away from him, it would be a great way to bring things full circle. At this point, here's the bottom line. Rob Lucci is stronger. Luffy is even stronger. However, circumstantial things could happen in which Luffy could be stalemated or even overwhelmed. Yonko are not invincible. We saw Frankie, Robin, so many people get the best of Big Mom, even Jinbei. Luffy was bested by a Pooh for a while. Ulti was forcing Luffy to go to Gear 4th. And yes, I'm well aware of the several power-ups Luffy has gone through since that point. He's a completely different monster now. Still had Rio, still had Future Sight. Those things alone should overwhelm Ulti in his base form, but it didn't happen immediately. It's just that things happen sometimes. And we think Rob Lucci the most iconic character in regards to Luffy's matchups so far. When we think of Luffy's best fights outside of Usopp, I guess, we look at Rob Lucci as a person who really pushed him the furthest. And Rob Lucci has gone through a transformation on his own in which he had his own character arc. Where does it go? We don't know, but it has to go more than just Luffy overwhelming Rob Lucci, right? If he does, there's no surprise there. Luffy should do that. What happens for the arc if Rob Lucci's taken out here? I don't think the problem is believing Luffy's way stronger. The problem is people just completely scoffing or shitting on everybody who thinks that, hey, let's give Rob Lucci a chance here. I was a huge Rob Lucci fan back in the day because of how much he pushed Luffy. And again, I've mentioned time and time again, I love when Luffy's being pushed. That makes for more exciting content, more exciting interactions. But I really don't care if Rob Lucci gets defeated or does anything major here. It's just more interesting for the story if he does not. Do you understand? But guys, give me your thoughts. Again, the comment section was flooded with difference of opinion and how people felt about Luffy and Rob Lucci. No one is saying that Lucci can beat Luffy at all. Lucci, in my review, I said cannot compete with Luffy, but there are circumstances. And I think Rob Lucci here, with his return and all the buildup, giving him a cover story, there has to be a reason for that. There must be. So again, guys, give me your thoughts. Make sure to like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BragoDAce. Follow me on Instagram at BragoD.Ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. And you guys be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.